I don't know. I guess that's what I'm missing here. Intention. What's the desired outcome of this action? I had a professor one time, it was an art class, drawing, and he would always ask us, what are you doing and why are you doing it? It's a way of me searching for a deeper sense of truth. Because you don't find truth until you question it. Don't question authority, don't question law, just do what we say. It's not me. I'm gonna fight. I like to. Hello my YouTube friends, I hope this finds you well. Today I want to talk about a film. I don't usually do film, but I'm going to start getting into more films since I both watch a lot of films and create films. I used to watch a lot of films. Now I have a child, and I don't. But eventually that's going to change. I'd like to pass on this love of the art form to my son. Maybe he'll do something better with it than I or anybody else could have imagined. You never know, but you have to give him that opportunity. And I'm excited to do that. And it starts out by watching really cool films. And the really cool film that I watched that I want to talk about today is Dogtooth by Yorgos Lanthimos. Yorgos Lanthimos is a director from Greece. He did a lot of commercials and, all the videography and video stuff that you don't really know is a huge part of the business. A lot of people assume, oh, you're a director. How cool. You must be very artistic. You must be very brilliant. You must be always inspired. Look, in order to get to that directorship, in order to get to that DOP or that director of photography position, you have to earn your way through. You have to prove that you know your craft. He did hundreds and hundreds of videos, commercials and short films when he had the time, documentaries, while he was honing his craft. He started to make feature films. And his feature films, I don't even think there are words to describe. You just have to feel it. Absurdism, surrealism, dark comedy, dark humor. It all comes down to how does it make you feel? And there's a very specific tone when dealing with a Yorgos Lanthimos film. And not all of his movies have the same subject matter or even have the same genre. But for some reason, they all have this tone to them. In order to understand an artist in its fullest capacity, is to go through their discography. I consider Dogtooth one of the highlights of Yorgos Lanthimos' catalog of films. So a little bit of context. Dogtooth was released, I think it was his second film, right after his first one, Technica. Immediately, Dogtooth put him in the running at the Academy Awards with a nomination for Best Foreign Film. All of his earlier films are in Greek. Dogtooth is a very visceral film. It has moments of abrupt and escalated violence. Some of the really interesting things about the film is how the film is framed, how they put the camera, where they put the camera, what are they focusing on. There are a lot of frames in Dogtooth where the characters just, their heads are cut off. So you're really just focusing on their torso, maybe their groin, which actually makes a lot of sense. Dogtooth is about 3 siblings who still live with their parents and have been sheltered on their property their entire lives. They've never left. So everything they know has been told to them from their father or mother. Control. The father controls the children, doesn't let them leave. These kids are not kids, they're adults. Like, they're in their late 20s, early 30s, and they're still living at home, never left the property. I mean, imagine that kind of claustrophobia. And maybe that's what those frames are meant to show you, is this sense of claustrophobia. When you're staring at a frame that has no head in it, and you're listening to dialogue from people you can't see, you don't really know anything, and you're looking around like, what am I supposed to focus on? And the frame doesn't move. It can go on for 5 minutes, and there's no moving frame. Nothing else is really happening. They're just sitting there talking. And then boom, abrupt and escalated violence. And there are also some very funny moments. And there are some very uncomfortable moments. And that's what I mean by visceral, is no matter what the scene is, no matter what the tone, you feel everything he's putting on the screen in your chest. If you feel bored, man, you kind of just feel... then you feel shocked and you feel it in your chest, like your whole body kind of perks up, like all that power coming from your chest. If you're kind of disgusted, moving your shoulders, you want to watch. Of course you want to watch. But I'm going to pretend like I don't want to watch, because that's the correct thing to do, That's a whole other video, is the voyeurism of violence. Although a sense of control is a very obvious theme in this film, one of the themes that I really noticed was this theme of submission, and even more so this idea of voluntary submission. So I mean, look at these kids, these adults. Look at these children. We'll call them children, adult children. They're in their 30s, at the very youngest, late 20s, and there are 3 of them, 3 siblings, and 2 parents who are older. If the 3 of them decided at any moment they wanted to leave, they could. They could sneak out at night. They could all ambush the parents while they were sleeping. They could find a way through sheer manpower, power of numbers, and like youth over age, to get out of that house. But they don't. And you're watching for 90 minutes these kids go through this strange, I don't know what else to call it, but delirium. This twisted sense of a connection to reality that isn't real. And when you realize that, oh, it's sad because the father is controlling them, oh, they're scared, or when you realize that yes to all that, but they also allow it to happen. That's the most disturbing thing. That's the word I was looking for. That's the most disturbing thing I can think about this film, is these people allow it. Sometimes I would get this feeling that they knew enough to know that it was a lie. Even though I don't want to be here, I don't want to leave. I've become so comfortable with this idea of living sheltered. I have everything I need. It's a resignation. That's what it is. It's an apathetic resignation to authority. That's kind of what this film is. I don't really know what the political climate in Greece is, and maybe it's a social commentary about the citizens of Greece and their relationship with the government. Maybe it's more of a spiritual thing, that we refuse as humans to evolve because we get comfortable and complacent, and therefore we become apathetic. And after a while, we just stop trying. We give up on our dream. We find it okay to just hang out here. I don't need to go anywhere. I don't need to advance my life. I don't need to get out of this house. I have everything I need here. Why would I leave? Why would I test the boundaries of what's comfortable and painful for me? Why would I do that? No need. I'm going to stay here. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's a commentary on humanity and its relationship with complacency through voluntary submission to an authority figure we know is complete nonsense. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. It's a film that, I'll be honest, I tried watching several times and I had difficulty getting through it. I like challenging films. I like films that make you pay attention, that make you do work to understand what is supposed to be represented here. What are you saying? You have to be attentive when you're watching, you could say, more challenging films. You know, you go watch a Marvel movie, you're not really challenged. You're along for a ride. But with a more challenging film, with art house films, with independent films, with Yorgos Lanthimos films, you have to put some work in. You have to come to your own conclusions, not just at the end of the film. No, you have to come to conclusions of what these characters are doing, because I'm not going to spoon feed you information. I'm not going to show you what happens and then in the next scene tell you what happens, because maybe my audience didn't get it. So I have to tell them, and then I have to set up the next scene. And then in that scene I have to remind them what happened already. No, there's none of that in here. That's a very popular trend in contemporary film, because they don't think the audience will follow. And you know what? Sometimes the audience won't follow. And that's the audience's fault. And if you're not following a film with the intention of it being some kind of active participation, think of a film more as an installation versus just a painting. A painting you see, and it's really easy to walk by because it's just like technically a two-dimensional thing on the wall. Yeah, it's three-dimensional because it's got like goop and bumps. I mean, if you're looking at a Pollock, you're looking at like a topography of paint, but it's easy to just walk by a painting. However, an installation, a big installation, it's hard not to look at it. Like, it makes you change your posture. It makes your eyes move around it. It makes you walk around it if you can in the museum. So a film should be more of an installation. It should make you move. It should make you see things differently. That's what film is. It's a relationship you have with the filmmaker through this medium. That's why it's the most immersive art form there is. And that's why I've gone from writing little stories in my composition notebooks to making videos. Because let's be honest, reading is a great exercise for your mind, but videos are so much more immersive. If you can get the same information from a video that you can an article, most people are going to watch the video. And that's what Dogtooth does. Dogtooth requires you to be involved. It requires you to come to your own conclusions, because it's not a very formulaic story structure either. What you have here are almost vignettes of moments, day in the life moments, that come to some story, that come to, like, they have a logic to them, but there's not this structured formulaic thing of saying, here's an inciting incident, and then here's the beginning of Act 1, and then we have, the decision, Act 2 to the midpoint. There's none of this classic structure, which is interesting because you're actually dealing with a Greek filmmaker who many would say Greece is the Mecca, or Greece is the Greece of story. You have philosophers in Greece who preach the idea of structure in a story. It was around that time that Aristotle came out with his Poetics, and that's all about using structure and character, very specific things to help build a verisimilitude of a story, to make it believable, to make people easy for them to engage with the play or the film or the novel. And yet, maybe it's a very tongue-in-cheek thing to do for Yorgos Lanthimos to create a film that you don't really have much character development. Like, you don't know much about these people, and there's not much to know. They've been inside this compound for 33 years. There's not much to them, They've never had experiences outside of this box. The plot, there's no plot. It's just stuff that happens, and you experience it with them, and then it leads to a desire. But you don't get that desire until more than halfway through. I mean, you feel the desire, but you don't get the expression of the desire until near the end. A Greek filmmaker who is avoiding character, who does not have a plot, doesn't have a formal story structure, a 3-act or a 5-act, and maybe that's why parts of it are quite boring. And it's supposed to be boring because it's supposed to make you feel like you're experiencing that life with the kids. So, I mean, it is creating a relationship with you and the protagonist, right? So you have to feel those moments of boredom and those moments of exhilaration, those moments of fear. So I get that. But it still doesn't mean you don't have to experience the boredom. You're going to experience 10, 15, 20 minutes of still frames, very stilted dialogue, said very cold, and not really have much of an idea of what's happening until the end. Once you get to the end of the film, all the dots click, right? And you kind of want to go back to the film again and watch it, now knowing the experience. I remember it took me 3 different times. That's not 3. That's 6. It took me 3 times to really get into it. The first time I watched the first scene, the second time I got to like the 4th or 5th scene, and then the 3rd time I finally was able to watch the whole thing in one sitting because I had mentally prepared myself. I know that what I'm going to get into, it's revered as an amazing film, and I love art films that make you work. This was an up-and-coming filmmaker who did stuff like The Lobster, The Favorite, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. That was the first one I saw of Yorgos Lanthimos. But, I mean, he was a huge name. He was a booming name. So I was like, okay, let's watch his early stuff, because you have to watch the early stuff to get a full understanding of who this artist is. That's what we were talking about at the beginning. So I had to mentally prepare myself that there's a reason for all this. There's a reason for all these moments of quietness and all this stuff. So I knew I had to just persevere, just push through. And then I had to prepare myself to just watch it. You know, don't get bored, don't lose focus, just watch and pay attention. And then once you do, you get this huge reward and you want to watch it again, which I think I did. That movie and Antichrist by Lars von Trier. I'll do a review of that movie too. Those are the 2 movies I think that I watched them. I wasn't sure if I liked them or not, but I watched them again. Antichrist, I know for sure I hated that film, and then I watched it again immediately after. Dogtooth, I actually loved. I loved the way it paid off. But the journey, man, the journey was uncomfortable. You got to experience the journey with these 3 kids who've never left their house. It's uncomfortable, it's claustrophobic, it's shocking, it's fearful, it's sometimes boring. And usually, if not always, you feel all of those emotions right inside your viscera, right in your torso, just sinking into you. And that's a great thing. Not many filmmakers want to do that to you, or are willing to do that, who are willing to put you through 10, 15 minutes of innocuous boredom to make a point through this, you know, almost like an installation. You know, they make you experience it. And I commend Yorgos for doing that. That's why I love him. That's why I love his films, because he doesn't shy away from any emotion. You can't, because then you're depriving yourself of the whole spectrum of emotions. If you're always trying to be happy and upbeat, and you know, colorful, and hey, that's great. That's a great attitude to have. But that's not who we are. Human beings have a whole spectrum. That doesn't mean you should show it all the time, but it does mean that you should feel it. Don't hide from it. Feel it. And Yorgos allows you and provokes you to feel it as you watch the film. And it's cathartic in some way. Check out Dogtooth by Yorgos Lanthimos, a Greek film. Prepare yourself. Just mentally prepare yourself. Go watch the trailer. Take about 10 minutes to walk around. and then watch the movie. Yeah. Thanks for watching.